So today's lesson, 4.3 and 4.4, involves modeling with formulas. The goals are to rearrange a formula to isolate different variables, and we're going to do this using opposite operations. First example, rearrange this formula, solve for h. So everyone should be able to identify that the letter h is right here. And just like we did the other day, we're going to use a flow chart using opposite operations. So we have to decide what's happened to h. We started with h, and h was multiplied by LW, and that gives us V. Okay, and the reason I started with h is because when we work backwards, we're going to want to have the letter h come first. So, working backwards, we start with the letter V, and V, instead of being multiplied, will be divided by LW, and that will give us h. So, to write this neatly, we're going to use this statement. It says that h equals V divided by LW. And that's normally how you're going to see the answer, instead of with the division symbol like that. Okay, next example. Rearrange this formula, solve for t. It's a little bit trickier because t is involved in many ways. There's brackets, there's addition, there's multiplication. So we just have to be careful and decide what's happened to t. So t, begin with t, was multiplied by r. And that answer will be added with the number 1. And that answer is multiplied, so addition and multiplication, multiplied by p, and that equals a. So once again, because we're going to work backwards, we're going to have to start with a and do all the opposites to get us back to t, and that'll isolate t for us. So a is going to be divided by p, and we're going to subtract 1, and we're going to divide by r, and we're going to get t. So very carefully we have to write this out. T equals a over p, because that's a divided by p, minus 1, and then the whole thing, the step we're at right now, is going to be divided by r. Okay, if we wanted to be to help make sure everything's accurate, the whole top, that whole thing has to be divided by r, just so we're clear. Let's do another one. These questions, and these are in lesson 4.4, will say rewrite this in slope y-intercept form, which is y equals mx plus b. So really the question should ask you to isolate or solve for y, and here's the y right here. So same thing, same as before. What's happened to y? Or in this case, because we don't have any multiplication or division or other tricky things to worry about, we can also just use the method that we used before, where we draw a line down the middle, and we move things over, but leave y on the left-hand side. So let's try that to do it differently. So we drew a line down the middle, and we're going to move everything that's not y, we're going to move it to the other side, and when we do that, they will become the opposite, or we're going to use opposite operations. So y is going to equal, 0 is already there, instead of a positive 3x, it's going to become a negative 3x, and instead of a negative 5, it's going to become a positive 5. Okay, at this step we should collect like terms. So we have 0 plus 5, which is 5, and negative 3x and no other x's. So negative 3x plus 5 is the answer. Now if you identify, if you remember this here, this answer that we are left with, that should remind you of what we did in in the second unit when we had slope in y-intercept form. So by looking at this, you should be able to identify that the slope is negative 3, and the y-intercept is 5. Okay, once again, we're going to try to rearrange and solve for y. we can do that using the method where you move things across the equal sign. This will need to be moved, the negative 9, and the 2x. So 2x and negative 9, move them to the other side. And that leaves us 3y equals 0, and instead of positive 2x, negative 2x, and instead of negative 9, positive 9, 3y equals negative 2x plus 9 when we combine the 9 plus 0. Now we still have a 3. We have a coefficient. We'll have to divide everything by 3, everything by 3, everything by 3 to get rid of it. So y equals negative 2/3 x, can be a fraction, plus 9 divided by 3 is 3. By doing this, once again, you should be able to identify that this first term is the slope, negative 2/3, and that this term here is the y-intercept, 3.